Actually, a pretty cool one, because I am about to welcome one of the ad blocking community's OGs to the stage. And the title of the presentation is Automating Ad Commits. And his actual name is Ryan Brown, but many will know him better as Fanboy, actually. And yeah, he's been a years and years long EasyList author and a top maintainer of several lists, including the EasyList and also EasyPrivacy. And yeah, in 2019, he joined Brave also as a filter list engineer. And he's a very passionate private advocate as well. And in Ryan's presentation, we will hear insights on tooling on how to automate and improve coverage in EasyList using the network scanner script. Fanboy, Ryan, join me.
Now I have to work out how to use this fidget toy. So the problem we have, and we've probably had it for probably some time, is that there is a lot of servers that use a lot of various ad servers that randomize pretty much every time that a user will go to a website. So basically, there are various companies that their intention is to obfuscate the intentions and launch pop-ups. And I guess the issue for us was they were changing so often that we couldn't keep up with it. And every time we added something, they would change the URL, move to another, move it to another URL or such. But we thought, why not automate this process? Can we improve this process so we don't have to ourselves go to these websites to fix them, I guess. And I guess when you think about real life, how do you can't be at the computer all the time making these changes. So we have to think sort of what tooling can we do to make things a little bit easier. So if you want to travel, for example, you don't have to worry about what's happening on your Git. It will just keep happening. So why not improve the scenario? So the problem at the moment are these various pop-ups. So basically, these are the malicious downloads. These are the fake notifications, and they want you to do something to either install an application, install something like a notification on your computer. And we thought, how can we improve the situation where people don't see these anymore, or see a whole lot less of these, because they're very, I guess, they're very malicious type of content for a user. And this is an example where, this is from a geolocation. It's a fake Microsoft pop-up, and it's actually using a phone number from a New Zealand location, because that's where I'm based. But if you had the same pop-up at a different location, say the US, you'd get a US number. EU, you'd probably get it based on where you are. So some of these pop-ups are really sophisticated, where they'll insert whatever phone number they have available and probably install malware for the user via a quick call to whatever distribution center they have in the various call centers. Probably get redirected to the same number still, but the fact that they localize a lot of these changes. And here's an example. This is actually from my computer itself, where if you allow a notification, it starts spawning a lot of these pop-ups where it will actually embed itself into Chrome. I use Chrome in this case. Embed itself into Chrome, so every time you open up Chrome, it randomly pop up into your taskbar saying, apparently I'm affected with something, and then occasionally throw a pop-up on saying that you've now got malware installed with these. So this is what we're trying to stop. I guess what we're trying to do is stop these scripts from inserting these into your computer. So the web is full of malicious scripts. So basically, they are randomized. I mean, really randomized. They're randomized by domain. They're randomized by folder structure. They're randomized by file names. So a lot of them have literally no structure. They don't care what they call their domains. And they'll also have these ones that will be the ones that generate the pop-ups and the scrolls. So basically, as you scroll, a pop-up will show, or if you click on a random empty object on the page, pop-up will show. And it just takes like the one script that you haven't blocked to cause the damage. So basically, you'll have one script that will just cause the pop-ups for you. So, and these ads are changing really regularly. They are monitoring EasyList daily or even hourly as well, or even less than that as well. So they are checking for every change that we make. So if we add one of their ad servers to our database on EasyList, they'll have either somebody there or they'll have some automation way of adding a new domain back into the World Wide Web, basically. So basically, it's been changed so often that we have to make it. We can't let them win over the community. So what are these scripts? Here's an example of just a sample of scripts, and as you can see, they are really random. Like these are for the best of, it looks, I guess there's no purpose. You can't say this is a legit website or these are legit websites. These are just garbage, I guess the garbage domains where they will populate just gibberish, names, file names, domain names, and depending on which company they will have a slightly different file structure, as you can see here. But they're all pretty much the same sort of. They don't care what they call themselves as long as they have. They will set them into the website, and often they'll change. They'll change the domain names once you block them as well. So these probably won't last. Well, they haven't lasted. It's probably since we added them back in EasyList a while back. So, but this is an example of that. There's probably 10 or 20 other companies that will do something similar to this with a similar template for their setup. So that's one example of what we're trying to stop here. So what did we do previously to counter these? We had three methods. Okay, I guess the most current method we used was you manually visit the site, add the domain, and then we keep going down this hole of making sure we keep up to date with them. But it's a manual process here. Previously, we used CSP, which is good but not good because it can break a lot of embedded stuff as well. So we sparingly used that back in the past. And then the other option was just to block everything from third parties and just allow specific scripts. So, I mean, that one is fine until they change something, until the website changes. If the website changes something, like they go to another cloud provider or change their scripts, we'll suddenly start blocking too much on this site. So there are downsides to all three methods, either high maintenance or more potential breakage. And the option is, why not regex? Regex is good, but there are also problems with regex as well. It is more hard. It's harder to pass for an ad blocker to pass a regex in, say, a non-regex. So if you have a regex rule, it's a lot harder to pass. iOS has its own regex limitations, which we can't. Obviously doesn't support all the regex options available to us, especially in MV3. If you're working on a host-based list, if you want to convert, say, EasyList to host-based, or you're working in a host-based environment, you can't use regex because it obviously doesn't work that way. That's fine. Then they got potential false positives or badly written rules. So basically, with regex, it just takes one character, throws itself off, and you potentially block the entire web because you've just created a rule that may have been overreaching at the time. It's also a lot harder to debug as well for a user because if you're not the author, or you were the author and 6 months later you need to adjust it, it's a lot harder to backtrack on what you did and why you added it, especially if the site's changed or whatever. So, and then I guess similar to the iOS stuff, there's obviously outstanding issues with regex on Chromium as well. So we can't rely solely on regex as the best option for us. So introducing a network scanning script. It's a Puppeteer script that will scan the web and output various Adblock rules. Has a integrated ad blocker in it. Has fingerprint protection as well, so the site doesn't know that you're running a Puppeteer script. It's got custom user agents and also custom referrers as well, because often if you link directly to a website, the referrers can be checked to block access to it as well. And also you can output not just in Adblock format, but you can output in localhost formats. You can do custom localhost formats, DNS mask, Pi-hole. So there are options available to people, and I'll discuss that more. But this is what we've developed, at least what's been developed for the last 4 months now. So what's the benefits of this script? So we're basically saying we can do automated additions now. So there's less work behind the desk where we can just let it do its thing. It saves time for the list author. I can travel, for example, and not worry about making sure that we are current as a list author. We don't have to worry about making sure that we're countering these malicious domains without being in front of the computer. So I could travel here and know that by the time I land, 300 domains were added, because I didn't need to be at the desk to make those 300 commits, for example. And as part of this, obviously, you can also output these into your local host format as well. There's a -- local host, and you can put in any IP address and it'll output that as well. So it's not specified to 127.0 or 0.0. You can give it an IP address of whatever for any of the local host authors. And it's also very easy to deploy. You can do it via a local host, a VPS host, Action, a GitHub Action or Runner. That said, though, I wouldn't probably run GitHub Action because there's only so many resources GitHub supplies. So I did try it as an Action, and let's say it was a lot slower than I expected, because I guess running Puppeteer and GitHub is a lot slower, they don't give you a lot of resources. So unless you supply maybe a third-party Action service or runner service, that might be better. But and the graph here is basically how things have increased since we've started doing this as well. So we've seen basically sort of 8 to 10-fold increase in additions when the script's running, basically. So here's just a basic rundown of, I hope you guys like JSON. So basically, here's an example of a regex where we're scanning for a sample site, looking for badserver.com/tag.min.js. So I guess the important thing is we want to specify, we want to look for this specific site. So we're targeting tag.min.js, and you can give it a custom user agent. You can give it a random fingerprint and then output it to whatever format you choose to as well. So as long as you're matching, you're fine. But then there's also the downside is that you're only checking the regex. So if there is another domain that's using tag.min.js, there is potential false positives here. You'd obviously get more than that domain if you're only just tagging, looking at that tag.min.js. So why not search for the string? So you can look in the tag.min.js, search for the string, which in this case I chose add options, and then output the same domain. So only get that badserver.com once it matches that domain. So if it doesn't match, it will skip it and move on to your next check. But if it does find it, you'll get that option and it'll bring it up. But we have other options available now. Why not check the who is for this domain? So again, you're doing the same thing as before, but now you can check the who is value of your bad domain. And I guess the important thing is you want to make sure that you are checking the right site, and the best way of checking the right site is having more than one condition. So just a regex by itself is just not enough if you want to be 100%. So in this case, we can check the who is of this. So we'll do a who is on anything that's got tag.min.js, and then as long as it's matching the whois.domain.com and the creation date, you can then know that you've got the right site. That said, though, you can do whois or, which you can combine, say, creation date of 2025 or 2024. So basically, you can search for multiples in the whois as well, which also leads us to dig, because dig is client side rather than server side. The downside with whois in the previous slide was you are seeing data out there and you can hit sort of limits with whois, and the whois server can start giving you some blocks. But with dig, it's all client side, so you can do as many dig queries as possible and it'll be fine. So in this case, you can check for a CNAME, and then if it matches said CNAME, you know you've got the right domain. And in the same case of whois, you can do dig or as well. So you can do multiple digs on the one domain. The roadblocks we have, some sites will do ad blocking as a bait. So they'll check to see if you're blocking that domain, they won't show the bad domain. So you sort of have to fake that you're running an ad blocker. So built into the JSON, you can actually block domains as well. So if a site is checking that you're running a domain, you can block the domain and it will show you the right site. So, and that can be done globally as well or per site. Will it cause false positives? Well, yes, but it depends on what JSON values you're running. So if you're running really basic JSON and you haven't checked, then sure, create false positives. But the more you add as part of the JSON, the more if you add dig, whois, obviously the less chance. You still run it to see what it picks up, but you can run into less issues if you have more checks on each domain. And if, as a fallback, use an ignore domain. So if you ensure that, say, Google never gets added to EasyList by error, you can always add Google into the ignore domains, and even if it matches, it will never get added to the parsing of the site. And this is what EasyList looks like since the changes. So as it sees halfway during the year, it's pretty much stagnant until the next half of the year where we started putting through all these domains. And those spikes are basically the cleanup. So we'll add it and then clean it up, but it's still going to be increasing. I guess for us, it will still forever be increasing because these sites will keep continuing to propagate, unfortunately. And the challenges and improvements, ad servers and additions will have larger ad files. That's a given. It requires us to clean up more, because if we don't, then obviously the list will get larger. So we'll continuously remove dead and unused domains. We are wanting, obviously, extension authors to update EasyList more often to take advantage of this. That's out of my control. But also we need, obviously, larger limits to accommodate the sprawl of these domains. And the graph here is basically propeller ads in this first half of the year from a recent blog saying that they're just keeping registering new domains pretty much every day. And no doubt, if they did this graph again, they will. It'll be a lot more because we've been attacking them basically. And thank you. I'd like to thank Andre for his circumvention monitor because it was a very 5 years ago when he released it. It was a very very inspirational script, and it inspired me to develop this. And it's available online on GitHub and npm.
First of all, thank you, Ryan, for everything you do. And then this in particular was really inspiring because even though the goal is somewhat different, but like a lot of the challenges are kind of the same what we had with this cookie pop-up thingy, because there's a lot of regex and crawling involved in that. So I'm wondering, like, so as I understand, you just commit these results and you don't have a manual review on top of that? Do I understand correctly, or?
For us, there's a lot of sites that we will go through. Most of these sites are movie streaming, episode streaming. Basically, the people who, I guess most of them are pirate sites, to be fair, but they're predominantly a lot of them are just farming for pop-ups and such like that, and we gather the URLs from user feedback, from filterless feedback. I've gone through a few of the repos to see what people complain about, and then we can gather the appropriate URLs, because you can pretty much, if you're looking for, say, one specific regex, you can say from 6 URLs, you can say this is the one regex one look at, and then from there you can sort of gather the bad domains, because a lot of them were notorious for a lot of us. We knew what to look for, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that the manual part is in beginning preparation, this config, right? So
Yep.
Like at first you get it from somewhere, then you kind of write this config with all the regexes and the strings to look for, and then you launch the process, and then you already know that it will find the correct things.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. That was really interesting to see what you've been working on. I am concerned that you're going to be putting us out of a job. Has your workload gone down? Have you had less to do?
You do. I guess what the idea would be is that give filterless authors something else to think less about. So less, if they have issue reports or other things, it sort of takes one section of authors' lives out of the equation, so they can contribute to issue reports, pull requests, other things other than this, because this will keep running in the background and forever. But they can contribute in other things. So there's always going to be other sites that are not related to this, but we can at least, help with their life, so they don't have to contribute changes. I mean, there probably occasionally you might do manual updates to see if they're changing your rules, but for the most part, they're pretty much stagnant at the moment. But as I said, they'll move on to something else. They'll do PRs for us or other ad projects or issues. So basically, it frees up time for them to do other things. And if they want to go on holiday and not worry about ad servers popping up, that's another bonus as well. Because I don't want to spend my time in front of the computer checking these sites when I can just let the script just do its thing for me.
I think one thing I would be concerned about now that you've made it public is people trying to poison it in a way. If I was a malicious Arab operator, I might try and, for example, put a site up with 10 million round and hand domains or subdomains or something like that.
I guess it comes down to, because you obviously still have to put in if you still have to create a recipe, a JSON recipe for it, you still know what to look for. I guess you can look for via just loading up a standard ad blocker and see what domains are coming up. But the recipe is the secret sauce is the recipe. If you don't share a recipe, they don't know what you're checking for. They don't know how you're checking for it. So if they're checking, if in order to poison it, they'd have to know exactly the parameters that you are actually checking for. If you're checking for a certain whois or a certain dig or a certain string, no matter what they'll add, is like it would be hard to match that. And they have to obviously match the regex as well. So if it doesn't match the regex that you have for that, it would probably skip it as well.
So the recipes are public, but just the
Yeah.
scanner itself is okay.
The recipes are your private. I guess I believe it's your private information. You can choose as a list author to show it, but I probably strongly wouldn't, because then they could obviously counter it, I guess, and make things more difficult. So the idea would be keep your recipes secret, so at least avoids people from exploiting any potential loophole that you're checking for as well. The source code obviously is available, but just I'd recommend keeping it. If you're trying out, just keep the JSON secret locally. If you want to make it public, it's up to you, but I'd recommend it private.
Just as a couple of feature requests, I would love it if it could take a screenshot as it's doing the scanning.
It's got that.
Sorry?
It's got that.
It's got that. Oh, okay.
I haven't tested it for a while. I'd have to probably see if I can put a delay on the screenshot and when it takes a screenshot, or but it has a screenshot feature as well, and also it's got a headless feature as well. So if you wanted to view it on a site and see what's doing, it will load up a Chrome engine of it and show you what it's showing as well.
And the logging output as well, I think, would be interesting
It's got that.
to look at. Oh yeah, that's. I'm curious. There's going to be a lot of output, and passing that might be a lot to be.
Yeah, it will basically, you can have it set up so it'll basically throw up a whole lot of network requests, and you can then it will save it as a file at the end, and you can view what it detected based on the output of the file. So you can. That's how I sometimes will see, if something was added, where it was added, and often some domains are shared amongst other domains. So you can populate it where you go, okay, so this domain was also used elsewhere.
I've got more questions if nobody else has got any.
I think Andre wants to speak. Give it to Andre.
Thank you so much, friends. Super interesting. I have two questions. On one of your slides, you showed a set of rules that you were using before. That's basically block all scripts and then unblock one in the other. My question is, there's this unblocking approach. There's already a denial all modifier. Do you use it in EasyList, or is it not supported by every blocker?
Probably not. It's we I guess for EasyList we use some real basic rules, so unfortunately not.
Well, it's just it was supposed to. Well, if Adblock Plus supports it, then maybe it makes sense, because the modifier was supposed to be used instead of using allow list rules. That could be a little bit too extensive, allow too much. But that's just a comment. And the second question is regarding the script in general. Well, was it hard? How much time you spend in total on developing this?
A few months. Few months. So basically, it was trial and error. There was a few issues of C where we inadvertently blocked AliExpress, CDN, and Discord. I guess what I learned is that the regex is important, but also most important is adding a dig or a whois or a search. Basically, you need to make sure that your patterns are correct and you don't target the wrong domains. And there is said you can ignore domains if you feel that the say you don't want to add Google or gstatic or other domains. You can just have it ignore domain, and it'll just, even if it matches, and that's our fallback, I guess, against wrongly added domains as well, because it's one of the, you don't want to lose faith in ad blockers in general. If your ad blocker keeps breaking, you don't want to lose faith in your ad blockers. So the idea is we want minimal breakage, and the only way to do minimal breakage is don't break, have the right rules, and that's the way that, I guess since then we've improved to the point where I went on holiday, I travelled, had the script running while I was in air, and it worked fine, and no breakages occurred mid-air. Not that I could make any changes to fix it, but everything worked fine. It was about 300 domains while mid-air.
Following up a little bit on what Peter have asked, like in your experience when running the script, how often you see an ad script that tries to detect automation? Like probably you use Selenium on Puppeteer or some kind of automation framework, and they can do that. And how often, in the larger perspective, how often is it?
The only time I've seen consisted of actually two instances actually. Referrers. Some sites started implementing referrer checks. So if you visit the site directly, it wouldn't show the pop-up. So basically you get a little notification, this site might show a notification, but then just stop because it's got it's checking for a referrer. And the other option was some of them started planting google.com as a domain, hoping that we would add it by mistake. So there was some of those domains, like I think it was the Ad Propeller Network, is basically just the domain by itself. Someone decided to add google.com, hoping that the scripts would just pick it up and just add it. But because we had a lot of checks and balances, that never happened. But I noticed it was like, they've added Google for some reason, and it never occurred to us that, I'm not sure if they can counter it easily, but that's the only times I've seen them change it. I guess they slightly modify the regex occasionally. They'll might change how things are parsed, and then we'll just modify the regex, maybe loosen the regex up a little bit, but you still keep the whoas, the dig, and the search strings current, and it still matches pretty well. So there are, for the most part, we're still getting all the servers these companies are adding at the moment, and yeah.
Okay, I presume some people still have some questions, but the good news is we are heading into the lunch break now, so you can continue having the conversations.